Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Cynthia Puga. Over the last decade, South Korean pop music has gone mainstream around the world, especially here in the United States. One K-pop group in particular that has taken the world by storm is known as BTS. BTS's televised performance at the American Music Awards in 2017 put them on the map in this country, and they've only grown in popularity since then. BTS's fans call themselves ARMY. But they aren't the only K-pop band trying to make it in the West. K-pop groups Blackpink, Twice, Super M, and Stray Kids all have millions of album sales and streams in the United States alone. Despite those who aren't familiar with K-pop, the music and its fans are starting to have an impact on American society. BTS, for one, has a reputation for singing and rapping about injustices in South Korean society. Their lyrics address taboo topics such as mental health, the demanding education system, and other issues that affect young people. Fans in the US, even those who don't speak Korean, have taken cues from their favorite K-pop stars and are turning to activism themselves. Variety reported that last year during the George Floyd protests, several K-pop artists donated to the Black Lives Matter Fund, including BTS. Within a day, their fans had matched the donation.
When BTS donated $1 million for Black Lives Matter, the fans were like, we should match this. And then two Twitter users came together and said like, oh, we should do a hashtag. And someone said, what about Match a Million? And they was like, yes, I will promote this. And then someone actually started like collecting like a PayPal pool. But people also said like, okay, this is a little risky. We can't have one person like have $1 million. So they reached out to us.
The BBC reports that ARMYs and other K-pop fans on social media have flooded hashtags like All Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter with videos of their favorite idols, crowding out the voices of Black Lives Matter opponents. The New York Times reported the K-pop fans even claimed credit for reserving the majority of the tickets to an indoor rally where former President Donald Trump was set to speak last summer. On Point's Malik Patterson has more.
Thank you, Cynthia. Let's welcome our guest, Jasmine Torres, who volunteers as a mental health worker for BTS Army Health Center, Crystal Anderson, a professor at George Mason University who studies K-pop music, Tiara Wilson, a panelist at a recent CSUN conference on K-pop, and then Jasmine Leung, a K-pop fan. How are you?
Great.
I'm doing good.
Doing well.
So to kind of start us off, when did you first become a fan of K-pop?
I became a fan of K-pop over 10 years ago. So I've been a fan for a while.
For me, I've been a fan since 2014, but I used to stream, play replay songs in grade 4.
For me, I knew of K-pop in 2015. I didn't become a fan till 2017.
I became a fan of K-pop in 2013.
Wow, you guys are miles ahead of me. I just recently started hearing their music within this past year. So, but it's pretty interesting. I like it. When did you first become a fan of BTS, and what does it mean to be in ARMY?
So for me, BTS was the first K-pop group that I was introduced to. And so kind of after them, I found K-pop as a genre, but I was introduced to them through a friend, directly during their debut. And for me, it was an interesting time where I grew up in a religious family. So I wasn't listening to a lot of the stuff that was on the radio waves because it had a lot of explicit content and things like that. But BTS became a way for me to still kind of get hip hop vibes that I loved without having to worry about the explicitness of content. And so that was really one of the first reasons that I got into them, was because of their meaningful lyrics and the hip hop aesthetics that they had. But I think for me, on a grander level, that being an ARMY for me is being a part of a family. I feel like no matter where I go, if I see someone with the BTS logo or the ARMY logo, it's an immediate, hey, hi, where have you been my whole life? And an instant connection and family. And I feel like we all have different stories about BTS that have to do with shaping our own identity and our own life experiences. Like for me, it had to deal with, having the freedom to or creating a space where I could still uphold what I believed in, but also, have a passion for the type of music that I love too. So I know a lot of other people have in the ARMY have stories like that where BTS has inspired them or impacted their life in that way too.
For me, I got into K-pop from Girls' Generation and Big Bang, or specifically Taeyang's Wedding Dress back in grade 4. And then I got back into them in junior high with Party by SNSD. But then from that song, I knew that a lot of my church friends listened to K-pop. I never cared about language, but I knew the vibes were cool. So my first group that I stan was 17. And then I got really into BTS, and then it kind of exploded. But sorry, was it impact? I really felt what Tiara said about when you see someone with a BTS pin, you just instantly connect. I think it's and especially on social media and stuff, you can you put ARMY somewhere and then you just find friends instantly. And I think everyone's story is really unique and amazing. And I think personally for me, BTS is just they teach you how to be comfortable in your skin and what you like, and just it's okay to like whatever you want and explore what you want. And it's a safe space no matter where you are.
Okay.
I got into BTS in 2017. I felt like it was a perfect timing because when I got to know them, it was during the Billboard Music Awards. So during that time, I had recently lost a loved one, and it was exactly the same day they were at the Billboards. So it was kind of like a way for me to distract myself and find healing. So it was more of a good timing. And then a lot of ARMYs can relate to that, and there's this thing in the fandom that says that you find BTS at the right moment. And it's very true. And that's what ARMY is like to me. It's like a family where you can go for support. It's somewhere you can go and if you're feeling down or you just need some reassurance, you're gonna have that fandom to reassure you and support you along the way.
Let's go ahead and listen to the psychologist Mia's opinion on what BTS lyrics mean to her, and just the note that it is in Spanish.
Las letras pueden contener muchos mensajes.
I think their lyrics contain many messages, and I think every person can relate to them in their own situation.
For Crystal, my question for you is, what does it mean for a South Korean boy band to have such the amount of success as they do with American music industry?
I think it's incredibly important if we understand that South Korea is a really small country, and we understand the history between South Korea and the United States, and the history with South Korea and its East Asian neighbors. It's not something that anyone may have speculated would have happened, in the immediate aftermath of something like the Korean War. And so for South Korea to produce K-pop that's not only popular in East Asia, but has also made inroads into mainstream America is seen as a really significant feat.
Okay, and then for Jasmine T, what is it important to you to have a boy band like BTS spread their message of self-love and care?
I feel like it's very important because a lot of people forget about their self-love. They think about loving another person, but they never realize how much self-love is important. And the fact that a boy band especially, telling women that, oh, you should love yourself is very important, because you don't hear that a lot that often. So it's a good message to rely on people, because it is important to have self-love, or else how are you going to learn how to love another person?
Very true. And then for Miss Tiara, K-pop fans have a history of activism and philanthropy. why should we pay attention to the Army specifically for their organization?
First of all, I think that you should pay attention because Army is everywhere, right? Army is all over the world, whether it's India or the US or South Korea, right? There's activism and philanthropy works happening all over the world under the name of Army. And largely BTS. But I also think we specifically in America should pay attention because I personally think that it's an outgrowth of the way that pop culture in America is used in general to mobilize individuals to take civic action. For example, there's a long history of hip hop activism in the US as well, right? And BTS specifically kind of crafts their image as hip hop practitioners, not just K-pop idols. And so I think that, you know, activism within the Army too connects back to that legacy of hip hop activism as well.
Okay, and then for Jasmine L, what about their lyrics truly resonates with you?
I think with their lyrics, no matter what age you are, no matter where you are in life, you can still relate to it. Like there's so many songs for like the youth of like, follow your dream, you can do whatever you want. But there's also a song that I personally like a lot, which is Paradise, that was in Love Yourself tier, where it's okay if you don't have a dream either, but you can just like live your life day by day and just like be happy with where you are. So I feel like no matter what stage in life, their songs kind of hit almost every age group, and it's not always about like loving other people, it's just like self-growth too.
Okay, I truly appreciate that. I'm probably gonna try to listen to that song a little bit later, but on my way home. BTS has donated $1 million to the Black Lives Matter movement, and this amount is quickly matched by the fans within a day. Let's hear a clip from the BTS charity to organize this event.
When Match a Million started, it had like 50,000 donations, and just like 2 hours later, it was already at 350,000. I was like, it's just, everyone was very supportive. Everyone wanted to do this, and it spread like wildfire.
I'll go back to you, Tiara. Where were you encouraged to donate to different organizations of BTS as sponsored?
So largely, right, there's a lot of different activism that happens within Army. There is BTS led the #LoveMyself campaign, right, which is partnered with UNICEF Korea to raise awareness to like school, domestic, and sexual abuse within children and teens, right? And so that's kind of one avenue of philanthropy that's happened. But there's also like the Black Lives Matter movement, right, where they collected funds to donate specifically to the Movement for Black Lives organization and the #Black Lives Matter movement. But there's also been opportunities where armies and smaller locations have also banded together to pay for like bail for protesters and things like that. There's also opportunities for armies to use digital spaces to kind of halt police surveillance and things like that. So there's been a lot of just activism in general, not only like throwing money at the issue. It's been a diverse group of like donating, as well as organizing, as well as using social media platforms to raise awareness to issues, and using kind of social media also to halt very alt-right racist rhetoric as well.
And then for Crystal, what does that mean when you think about the conversation being had within the fandom about the issues around the world?
I think that's reflective of the way that K-pop fans are not only interested in K-pop, but they're interested in other things. K-pop fans tend to bring their interests and their talents and their skills to K-pop, and then they deploy them through K-pop. So this is another example of K-pop fans doing that.
For Jasmine T, how does their influence on their fans raise more awareness on these social issues?
So I'm currently in a group called AHC. It's called Army Help Center. So what basically that group is, it is a group where we're not professionals, but we're a place where Army can come talk to us when they need someone to talk to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be ARMY. It can be anyone from any fandom. And it's just a safe place for them to come and talk and also get to understand that their voice and the situations that they go through is very important.
Let's hear a quick clip about how the social issues can relate to K-pop fans.
BTS reflects usually all of these ideals. They do a lot of charity themselves. They always try to stand up for what they don't think is right. And they talk a lot about social issues in their music. Of course it reflects, but it's also like they attract fans that also feel this way.
My next question is, has there been any word about donating or spreading awareness to the new movement #StopAsianHate?
I know that BTS did share a message in like solidarity, and they also like penned a letter in support of the Stop Asian Hate movement. But so far, I haven't heard of any like mobilization efforts within ARMY yet. That doesn't mean they're not happening though. They just haven't reached my ear gates.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. I'm pretty sure that there will be. It's still new, so I was just curious because they seem to be in the forefront of really pushing awareness and really pushing towards just equality and unity. Many fans don't speak Korean, which explains the Hallyu wave, I think is how you call it, and the success K-pop music has found in the United States. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So music is one of those mediums that tends to transcend language. One of the hallmarks of K-pop music is its hybridity, or its tendency to blend elements of Korean music and culture with elements from other countries. And in order to do that, those artists and producers and arrangers and composers did not necessarily know or understand English. In the same way, fans around the world in different countries and in the United States, many of them do not speak Korean, but the music and the visuals and the performance and the choreography all resonate with those fans, and the way that music tends to transcend languages, borders, boundaries between people.
Okay. And then for you, Jasmine T, how has K-pop helped people cope with their mental health issues, especially during this pandemic?
In the group that I'm in that I mentioned before, we do get a lot of people coming in. Recently, with the recent pandemic, we have received over about 30,000 messages. So it's a lot, but the way that we help cope is by kind of getting familiar with psychology in a way of like how people handle anxiety, and understanding that there's this thing, we call it COVID anxiety, because a lot of people have increased anxiety in a way of afraid of going outside. So we try to find coping mechanisms to help these armies that come in to talk to us, and help them find a way to kind of find their own way to cope and see the importance of their mental health that they are going through, and also be able to learn how to express themselves, because a lot of people tend to hide their feelings and tend to hold on to their grudges. And in this ASHC, we tend to try to get them to understand that they need to let it out. So it's kind of like a venting room for them to come in and like just speak anything they want, even though it doesn't make sense. It's just a way for them to just speak and let it all out, because this pandemic has affected many people. So this page has really helped a lot to just come in and vent and really like express what they're going through during these difficult times.
And then as a follow-up question for you as well, has there been any testimonies that you have seen? Like BTS and K-pop has kind of helped them push through their issues that they have experienced.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, I do see it a lot. BTS, a lot of their music, especially like the message that they put out, is kind of a motivation. So like there's this quote that RM said in a concert, says, if we how does it go? Give me one second. If you can lower your pain from 100 to 99 to 98, this enough for existence. So this is something that we kind of follow up. It's kind of like if their music or their videos or their content, it's kind of like if we can lessen the pain that we're going through, then kindly use us to help you through your difficult times.
I like that. I like that a lot. And then for Jasmine L, why was BTS so successful compared to other K-pop groups?
I want to say that it's because they came from a small company. Everything is like so them. It's everything that they put out is everything that they have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Even every, like, I think someone mentioned this earlier, but like every album that they produce, Puga says that like they have one song dedicated to like social issues. So it's like every song that they produce has meaning for everybody. And I think that just reaches people more and it sits with them longer than just a song about a couple or like a breakup song or a love song that's very popular these days. But their message just overrides that and it just sits with people better.
And then I have a question for Crystal, but Tiara, if you want to chime in as well. Has the language barrier between K-pop artists and Western fans ever been like an issue that they've tried to overcome, or is it just something that just comes naturally?
You have K-pop artists who are regularly improving themselves, and part of that improvement is learning languages, other languages,
Mm-hmm.
not just English. And so they do that in order to be able to communicate with their fans around the world. Conversely, because of the rise in popularity of Korean popular culture like K-pop and K-drama, you have fans who take it upon themselves to learn Korean, either through classes offered at their colleges and universities or through various portals and platforms online to learn Korean, to be able to communicate, usually via social media, with their favorite K-pop artists. And so on one hand, language is not a barrier because people have been transcended for years. But on the other hand, you see efforts on both sides to learn the language and in a lot of cases, the culture of the other person.
I would just add to what Dr. Anderson said, that a lot of it, there are definitely moments within ARMY and within the fandom that there can be a feeling of estrangement. At times where like international armies will, complain a little bit about all of the fan service and kind of the extra interactions that Korean armies get. But I do think that ARMY as a community does help each other out. Right, is that there are Korean armies and armies all over the world that are constantly working to subtitle content and to translate information and things like that. So you can definitely feel the dedication, not only to BTS, but making sure that BTS gets shared with the world from within ARMY as well.
I like it. And then I just kind of have one more question for everyone. BTS' recent album, B, was a pandemic album, and it had a lot of songs that the ARMY could relate to while surviving the pandemic. What was important to have this at that time, and what effect did it have to help others?
One of the things that shows is that the pandemic did not stop the production of K-pop. We saw the pandemic affect a lot of other industries. If you look at Hollywood, the release schedule is all over the place because we don't have movies coming out in theaters. But one of the things that K-pop did, and it's part of I think the unique structure of the promotions in Korea, they're planned so far out and they're adaptable. So they adapted. They had online concerts. They produced different kinds of content. A lot of artists spent more time on social media because the schedules were different. They didn't have to do as many schedules, particularly in the early part of the pandemic when a lot of people were on lockdown. And so I think that the content that you see coming out of the pandemic is content that's shaped by the pandemic.
I think the B album, the title track Life Goes On, was a great follow-up for Dynamite, because Dynamite was like, this pandemic, it's fresh and new, but like, it's okay, keep going, it's all right. And then Life Goes On was kind of like, it's okay if you don't feel like Dynamite right now, it's okay, life will go on, like, it's not the end of the world. And like, the B is like beginning to end all BTS production and just giving you everything that they've still got. And it's like, we're still here to support you. I know the concert got cut, but it's okay, life will continue and we'll come back. And it's,
I love it.
yeah.
To add on to what Jasmine said, it was something new and something that I see it more of like a mental way, a good way to express like how each and one of them felt that, yeah, we are going through the same thing that you guys are going through. Yes, like life does go on, like we're at a pause right now, but that's okay. And that goes also with like that song Blue and Gray, which was very like sad. It was very mellow, like very like depressed, like it to be honest, it was very like blue, but it also, there goes Disease and Telepathy, which was a little bit more upbeat, but it also expressed a lot about mentality and how it's a time for healing, a time that you went through, and now it's time to like grow yourself and see yourself in a better way. It's finally time to realize that the problems that you were holding back needs to be seen.
That is all the time we have today, folks. I want to thank the panel again: Jasmine Torres, Crystal Anderson, Tiara Wilson, and Jasmine Leung. We'll be right back.
I found them at work, on a desk, laying out in the open. Copied them, shared them on a website. Now I'm facing up to 3 years in jail. It's scary. Who knows where it's going? I mean, who's gonna hire me? Don't do it. It's not worth it.
I came to CSUN to learn. I came to CSUN to grow. I came to CSUN to prepare. I learned to ask, to analyze, to communicate. I grew as a writer, a thinker, a citizen. I left CSUN prepared to participate, prepared to contribute, prepared to lead.
Aloha, I'm Linda Lingle, and I'm a Matador.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can hear us on KCSN 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings at 5:30. You can watch us on LA 36 and Santa Clarita Valley Television. For all of us here at On Point, I'm Cynthia Puga.